morning, Dr. Rosario.
Okay.
I'm Tiara Pakasi.
Okay.
Sorry for the
Uh,
inconvenience. I
no, it's
just
okay.
received the disposition from our Director General because currently at the moment he is having a meeting with our minister in related with with COVID-19 and also with the budget for next year. So a big apology from him that he asked me to present this presentation on behalf of him. I hope it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay, Dr.
Okay.
Chara Pakasi. You are
Yes.
much welcome. Yeah,
Thank you.
to present about beyond COVID-19 dengue situation in Indonesia.
Yes. Thank you, uh, Chair. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, distinguished professors, experts, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much. And once again, my apology from us that our Director General at the last minute, he cannot present here to share this information directly with you all and asked me to, told me to present this on behalf of him. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I would like also to thank Professor Aman Pulungan, my teacher, my professor, for your critics and encouragement, Professor, for us to do a better of many things in dengue control program. And yes, sir, we are at the moment in like intense collaboration with also with IDAI, yeah, with your association and also other uh, related health professionals and ministries to make a better guidelines for dengue control in Indonesia that will be shared with you all. It is scheduled by our minister on Tuesday, hopefully, because today our topic for DG, for our DG is in relation with dengue situation in Indonesia in the COVID-19 pandemic era. So, as mentioned by Professor Pulungan, that dengue situation in Indonesia is quite not threatening, but alarming maybe. And from the first emergence of the DHF, yeah, we as mentioned by Dr. Pulungan also, what has been reported to the national level is the DHF cases. But so what is presented or displayed in the as the data of a national program is the DHF cases. And since it is reported for the first time in more than decades ago in 1968 in Jakarta and Surabaya, the cases are increasing. Yeah, the incidence is the trend is increasing, and in the last 5 years, an average of 191 cases of dengue with more than 900 deaths occurred every year. And in 2020, out of 414 districts and municipalities, 477 districts and municipalities reported dengue cases to the national level. Of course, economically, it cost us a lot. There was already a study conducted by the Faculty of Public Health, University of Indonesia, that stated that the cost of this dengue patient in 2 provinces only, yeah, out of 34 provinces in Bali and Jakarta in 2014 to 2015, it cost approximately 1.8 trillion rupiahs, which is consisted of the cost to treat the dengue patients, the loss of productivity, and also loss of the affected individuals, and also loss of productivity for other family members. So this is, of course, a big problem for us. And as we all know, that since it's been like 1.5 years now that all the world has been hit by the COVID-19 pandemics, and also in Indonesia, we also experienced the same problem, in which in 2020, 108,303 dengue cases and 747 deaths occurred during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, and if we compare it, the dengue cases and the COVID-19 cases in 2020, as per the end of 2020, we can see here that provinces that reported high cases of COVID-19 were also reporting high cases of dengue. With that, we can see that both, both diseases become a big threats, big threats to the national disease control program, and we need to do something upon it. Maybe I go back a little bit to the dengue cases in Indonesia. Sorry, this one, yeah. So as Professor Pulungan also mentioned that the distribution, I mean, we divided the cases maybe with we need to update the distribution of the age of the affected individuals, and we are working on it, professors and ladies and gentlemen, because at the moment we are developing the better information system for dengue, so we can get a better surveillance as well. There we can see that for the deaths, the highest proportion is among the children, but for the morbidity, the highest incidence is among the productive age. So back to the current situation, as a dengue endemic country, we are really aware that both diseases, dengue, COVID-19, as its individual case, I mean, as dengue itself, as COVID-19 itself, are already a major problem in our country. Not to mention, we need to add one more problem, which is the co-infection between COVID-19 and dengue. It is a threat that we have keep it in mind and follow it up already. Yeah, so to address this issue, last year we conducted this small study on COVID-19 and dengue co-infection. Actually, this is only a start of a study of a planned, bigger, wider study, but because of some obstacles, we could not yet continue or proceed with the bigger study. But we already had a result from this small study. And also we, on July 2020, the Ministry of Health published a protocol of dengue prevention and control program in the new norm era of COVID-19 pandemic. Here is the result of the study of COVID-19 and dengue co-infection, a collaboration of Ministry of Health, Pajajaran University, and supported by WHO. It is a small study, but it resulted that the co-infection is there, from the 34 samples of confirmed COVID-19 by swab PCR test, also confirmed with dengue. That's why, because of this, and also with the reports from the fields, we want to proceed with the study, but it was a bit challenge. I mean, we could not proceed with the study due to the funding related matter. So meanwhile, the essence of our protocol of dengue prevention and control in new norm era of COVID-19 pandemic it has 6 main essence. The first one is community participation in the vector controls. Yeah, it is much in line with the mobility restrictions that is applied in many places, yeah, or nationwide in Indonesia, especially in the areas which is really affected by the COVID-19. Yeah, so it is in local term we have PSBB, we have PPKM, something like that. It is much related to the mobility restriction. So grasping the opportunity, we ask the community to be more active in vector control at their own places, their own institutions, some sort of that. And the second one is as the dengue endemic country, of course, continuation of dengue program is a must. And by doing it, we also, the protocol of COVID-19 pandemic prevention is the first priority. So we make adjustment, we make some adaptation in relation with that. The third one, of course, health worker safety is number one, yeah, related to the second essence. And the fourth one, surveillance still must be done. We encourage the utilization of the information and technology, of the the many applications can be developed easily nowadays. So that is also included in our protocol. And the fifth essence is related to fogging. Maybe in other places, other countries, this fogging matters. Fogging is also sometimes becoming like two-edged of a sword, yeah, because it is famous or notorious, I should say. Sometimes the guideline mentioned that it is to stop the transmission, but sometimes and we need to, of course, it is also our homework, yeah, to control it. That so we remind again that we remind the health workers and all the stakeholders again that fogging is has to be done according to the rules. And in this time of pandemic, to avoid the misdiagnosis, the underdiagnosis of dengue, we really encourage the provision of dengue rapid diagnostic test. Yeah, this is also the based on the recommendation, of course, from the experts. So what do we do? Yeah, what do we do nowadays in terms of dengue prevention and control program in the COVID-19 pandemic? Oops, sorry. This is the conclusion slide, I think. We give the take-home message or the messages to the provincial, to the subnational level, and also to the frontliners, yeah, that dengue program must continue as part of one of the essential health services in Indonesia. And for ensuring that, our guidelines are as follows. One is to continue to carry out vector control in households, public areas, and institutions, and also be aware of the possibility of dual infection case of dengue and COVID-19. And the third one is, again, the dengue prevention and control program is conducted by following the protocol for dengue prevention and control in the new norm era of COVID-19 pandemics. And above of everything, we always need to comply to the health protocols to stop the transmission of COVID-19. Yeah, we have this famous abbreviation, yeah, in local language, 5M for the COVID-19, 3M plus for dengue. So it's more than 8M plus nowadays, yeah. So I think that's what we do. And this final slide, we would like, on behalf of Director General of Disease Prevention and Control, MOH Indonesia. In principle, we really appreciate any partnership and efforts to control dengue, considering that there are so many challenges in dengue prevention and control program. So I think with collaborative resources, we can synergize. Nowadays, we've been really active on it. So we really ask for support from everyone, and we are open for any suggestions and inputs. And finally, let me wish all of us a happy ASEAN Dengue Day. ASEAN unite against dengue amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and congratulations to everyone for this inauguration of the World Dengue Day Virtual Forum. Thank you, terima kasih. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Chara Pakasi. Thank you for that interesting lecture, and telling us that really dengue and COVID-19 infection exists. So there's co-infection, and we look forward to that big study on dengue and COVID-19 infection, even though it's just a start. But as they say, big things often start with small beginnings. Okay, thank you so much.